Welcome to Brain. Now, what's a trip is everybody knows, okay, what's the difference between someone 50, 60, 70, 80 years old with healthy body, healthy brains? You know. Now, do they take a lot of medications or no medications? Somebody with a healthy brain. Do they have a good diet or a bad diet? I know, you're thinking, duh. Okay, but we're living in crazy world. Okay, so number one thing, if you look at every medication on the list of medications doctors can give, cholesterol, that's a stress response. Antacids, this lowers acid in your stomach, and reflux isn't from too much acid, it's from too little. This stops absorption of minerals. Antihistamines, this is one of the most dangerous drugs you can take for your brain. It literally damages it. I've got 9 pharmacists as patients, and there's no way they would take a Benadryl or an antihistamine. Blood pressure medications. 1 kilo brain burns 90% of the body's oxygen. Does it help oxygen in the brain or slow it down? And type 2 diabetes, 95% of all diabetics are type 2. And this thickens the blood, means the blood can't hold oxygen. None of these are diseases. They're all stress responses. Toxic oils, stuff that your great-grandparents never saw. Processed foods. And then when we look at all of this stuff, just normal. What are the best supplements for a brain? Collagen, healthy fats, minerals, and antioxidants. This means that every fruit, vegetable, berry, it's fantastically good for you. When you're looking at minerals, plants got to draw those minerals out of the soil. So sea plants are fantastic. Healthy fats like butter, coconut oil, olive oil. The food just needs to be organic and fresh, not processed and laden with pesticides. Sleep patterns. Okay, well, movement. Do you know there's high disease rates at those extreme athletes, and there's high disease rates at sedentary lifestyle? And there's long life when you look at the blue zones and moderate daily activity. Wait, that says daily. Do I mean daily? Yeah. And you only got to move the joints you want to keep. Okay, and then sleep. If you sleep less than 5 hours a night, you're going to develop chronic disease. More than 9 hours a night, you're going to develop brain damage. 6.5 to 7.5 hours. So that means disciplined. Sleep patterns, discipline, weight, because your whole body only has 2 settings. You've got 2 states, and this is the automatic. You can be in protection or regeneration. Now, when you look at this, let's look at the structure. Now, your brain, 1 kilo, burns 90% of the body's oxygen, produces a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid, and that gives nutrients to the brain. And that fluid flows down here and gives nutrients to the spinal cord. The spinal cord actually stops up here, continues on as a bundle of nerves. But now also, then you have this nervous system controls heart and lung function. So that's where the body can transfer oxygen. And it's interesting, the heart nerve has 2 nerve supplies, one here at the top of the rib cage, one here at the top of the skull. It's called cranial, right here, the 10th cranial nerve, and this one's the sympathetic supply. The liver, stomach, everything, that's supplied by this cranial nerve up here, cranial nerve 10, and that's the vagus nerve. So that controls all the digestion. Now, what's interesting, that whole digestive tract, it's called the gut-brain connection. So if you alter this nerve supply, because remember, the body can only be in protection or regeneration, this is designed to function correctly. Now, I get patients with the loss of curve or reverse curve in the neck. How common is that? Way too common. Now, this is going to actually stretch the spinal cord. It's going to pull on the brainstem and put the person under stress. So they're going to have, how's their body going to adapt with high blood pressure? And that's just the physical stressor. Now, physical stress, obviously you can see it on X-ray. Chemical stress is going to be poor sleep patterns. And the way you describe it, what supplements can I take for this? No, I give you the greatest plate of supplements, healthy amino acids, fats, usable sugars, okay? But I stand on both your feet while you're eating it. You're not going to get the absorption. So blood pressure in people with considerable stress is going to be elevated. In a normal body, it's going to go up when you need it, down when you don't need it. So it'll be lower when you're resting, it'll be higher when you go upstairs. I've got a patient now that has a reversal of the curve in the neck, lost a curve up here. They've got cardiac arrhythmias like crazy, or had it a week ago. And now he comes in, and he's only 80, so he's a young guy, and he's checking his heart rate now, and what does he say? Oh my gosh, it's all normal. It's wonderful. Yeah, we're just taking the pressure off. Blood sugar is going to go up and down based on how you need it. In a chronic state of stress, the liver is going to break glycogen down to glucose, so blood sugar elevates. Cholesterol goes up and down. It goes up in the wintertime, down in the summertime. It's utilized for tissue repair. This is in a chronic state of stress. Metabolism, okay? And you're only alive because you build cells healthier faster than they break down. And if you're in a constant breakdown process, what happens? You lose collagen, you lose health, you lose vibrancy, you lose everything. Your body just literally fades away. Good sleep, poor sleep. Good bowel function, that means 2 to 3 healthy bowel movements a day. Poor bowel function, chronic people will say, one if I'm lucky, okay, on bowel movements, or one every other day, okay? And the medical world doesn't look at any of these as an intelligent stress response. Regeneration. Obviously, this person's in a stress state, they can't do it. And there's only 3 things: physical, chemical, emotional stress. Now, this cerebellum, the small brain in the back, controls the frontal lobe. And that frontal lobe, okay, is where anxiety, stress, depression, impulse control, schizophrenia, all of that stuff, they're features of the frontal lobe. Is that why people who have had frontal impacts lose that impulse control? It's one contributing factor. But now this frontal lobe is programmed by the cerebellum. How is the cerebellum programmed, though? I know they didn't teach any of this in the medical world, okay? It's programmed by the position and motion of the vertebrae. So when you have normal position, you have normal stimulation to the cerebellum, and then you have normal function. Then the cerebral spinal fluid that's produced in the brain can flow down correctly. If you have abnormal position, you have abnormal stimulation to the cerebellum and abnormal stimulation to the frontal lobe. So when somebody says, I've been diagnosed with anxiety, I've been diagnosed with bipolar, I've been diagnosed with depression, yeah, you got to look at the gut, brain, but you got to look at the stimulation to the cerebellum. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? The brain and body function correctly. The average person in America, and that's the most drugged country on the planet, is taking, if they're over 60, takes 12 different prescriptions. I take none, so somebody's making up for my deficit. Okay, blood sugar goes up and down. So all of this stuff is all a correct response by the body. Does that mean high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, elevations in cholesterol is an intelligent response? Yes or yes? It is. Yeah, so a real doctor is a detective. Okay, so all of these things are a normal response. So you've got to address the physical stressors. And by the way, when you see a reverse curve, loss of curve, reverse curve, disc damage and everything, this is a living structure. And if caught in time, it can be corrected back to normal. We do post x-rays at 30 adjustments to document the pathologic structure into a normal position. And then your diet is just consistent with your species. You eat the same way your great-grandparents ate. You're not going to go get corn oil, canola oil, the toxic seed oils. You're not going to get processed foods, non-organic. Pesticides are estrogen-based. So how many people in Thailand have polycystic ovary syndrome? You're looking at everywhere. You're looking at so many infertilities from toxic food, from toxic diet. And just makes sense, right? Live within your parameters. Eat right, sleep right, think right. You have 2 switches, regeneration or protection. Your regeneration, that means good sleep, good bowel movements, good everything function. Does that make sense? So brains, okay, live long and healthy, fine for forever. Collagen, healthy fats, minerals, and antioxidants. You discipline yourself to sleep. You discipline yourself to move. You move every joint every day. Any questions? Oh, and this is also how do you reverse Alzheimer's. 3 things you got to look at: physical, chemical, emotional stress. 3 things to correct autism: physical, chemical, emotional stress. It depends on how much damage has been done to the brain by the neurotoxins they've been exposed to, but you got to heal the gut, change this, and get the brain to function, and it works better. Any questions? Kapum Krap, thank you very much.